Hey everybody, Mark from tenttable.com. We are going to be setting up a 20 by 20 weekender tent today. Our weekender 20 by 20 tents ship in one box. Our 20 by 30 and 20 by 40 tents ship in two boxes. One box is going to contain the top, all right? And here should be your pole set. In a few moments, we're going to unbox this. We'll lay it out and you'll be able to see what is included in the pole set, so you make sure you have everything you need to set the tent up. I have unboxed our 20 by 20 weekender tent. The first thing I'm going to do is pull out the manual. The manual was in the box underneath the tent top. But let's say for some reason the manual wasn't there, you can always access it online. And the other thing that's interesting that we do, and a lot of people might not know about, is inside of all of our tent bags, I actually have an entire cheat sheet that shows how to set up this one-piece canopy, as well as what should be included with each size tent that we make. And this is sewn right into the tent bag. So it's always good to, number one, customers don't always put the tents back in the bag, but as a last resort, you have that right there. But at this point, I'm going to want you to just go through, depending on the size tent that you bought, and check off what you have. Our center pole is going to be 4-piece, so I have 4 pieces for the center pole. I will have 8 bottoms and 8 tops with the tips, okay, and then I'll have 12 stakes. All of that is going to be listed right here in the item checklist, so make sure you go over the item checklist. And as with any tent or anything that you purchase, try not to wait till the day that you need it to set it up. Try to open up the boxes and make sure everything was received in good, usable condition a few days before the event. So if there was ever an issue, you have plenty of time to call your rep and get out a replacement part or ask any questions about the installation of the tent. As you can see right now, we're going through, normally it wouldn't take 4 people to unfold a tent, but the factory fold's always a little bit different. Again, why is a ground tarp so important? We are now pulling this tent out. The inside of the tent would have been in direct contact of the ground had we not had a ground cover underneath it. Now that we have our tent top laid out on our ground cover, the most important process of setting up a pole tent is making sure your pole tent is pulled square. So one person's gonna get on one corner, one person's gonna get on the other corner, and let's just pull this tent and make sure that we've pulled all the slack out of it, okay? We can come to the other end. Do the same. You know, making sure, pulling, and we want to look down and make sure the valance of the tent is nice, straight, and square in all directions. Before we set it up for staking, we're going to walk around, and I want all of the ropes pulled out and laid on the ground straight. Your corner ropes are going to be at 90-degree angles. Pull that one straight. Then I'm going to kind of just do a walk around. When I look down this line, I'm going to want to see a straight line. Straight. Straight. Right now, everything looks pretty good. Hey, Steve, can you grab that rope right there? Just pull it a little bit for me. Our next process is going to be putting the side poles together, and we'll lay the poles out around the tent. On your side poles, you'll have a male and female swedge. We're just going to put those together and lay them out in front of each of the rope lines. The next thing we're gonna do is we are gonna lay out our stakes 3 to 4 foot out normally. What I'll usually use as a good rule of thumb is I'm just gonna take the longest section of the center pole, and I'm gonna lay that out, and I'm gonna just push my stake into the ground a little bit. And I'm gonna repeat that process around the tent. I want to note that if you look down this stake line, we have a straight line. This stake line, we have a straight line. The corners are at a 90 degree. So we should be ready now to start driving these stakes in further. Now I also want to note that you're going to see that these stakes are straight up and down. It's a misconception when people want to try to drive a stake at an angle, okay? Driving a stake at an angle is the weakest way to drive a stake in, whether it's a tent or an inflatable. If I drive this stake in at an angle, I might think that I'm getting better holding power, but actually, because I'm driving it in at an angle, I can pull the ground right up. When I put the stake in, I want all the pressure of the rope, or if it's a larger tent, a ratchet strap, going directly against the soil. So always drive your tent stake straight. Next, we are going to get these stakes driven in, and then we will show you how to start assembling the tent. You're going to see on your tent when it comes, it does have a tensioner built in. Some people will use the tensioners, other people will use a double half hitch. I will go over both of those knots in a few minutes as we get this tent in the air. It is nice to take and just put a little knot in the end so your tensioner never falls off. We have our rope here, we have our tensioner. What you're going to want to do is pull this one end of the tensioner down until it hits the knot. And then I'm going to take and do probably about halfway up. And then we'll do some more adjustments later. But right now you can see that I have the tensioner about halfway up. The first process is going to be putting your corners in. Pick up the pole from the bottom when you're doing it so they do not separate. Your pin is going to go through the grommet and through this back plate here. Now stand that up into place. Tilt it in a little bit. I'm going to go to this corner and do the same. Now you see I'm fighting this a little bit, which means one of these is a little tight. So I'm going to loosen each of them a little. So I can loosely get this center pole up and just kind of standing on its own. It doesn't have to look straight or neat right now. Now we're going to go over to the other corners. Again, pin through the back part of that D-ring. Stand it up straight. I'm just going to give myself a little bit more tension here. Now that we've got the 4 corners in place, we're going to do the same process with the side poles. The next thing we're going to do is assemble our center pole. Make sure that you have the short one will have a bottom plane on it. The top one will have the tip on it. So we're going to take one with an open end on the top and the bottom. Clip them together. And now we're going to take the center pole and we're going to install it through the top grommet of the tent. This is actually a good time, or we can do it after, but once we get this in,
you want to get that before it's unreachable?
Pull down your storm line, and this is actually a good time to start. I have it at an angle like this. I'm going to start removing the tarp. We're going to walk our center pole into place so it looks vertical.
A little bit. Good.
Okay, and now in a moment we're going to walk around and we're going to tighten the rest of the poles. Right now I'm going to start doing a final tension on our corners. What I like to do is I'm going to bring this corner in at an angle. I'm going to pull some of the slack out of both of them. I'm going to stand it back up into place. It might take one or two adjustments. Then I'm going to walk around to the intermediate sides and go through the same process. Now I'm going to look at the outside of the tent, and the tent is done. It's pretty square. You might wonder what I'm doing now, and this is a storm line. So if the wind gets underneath the tent, it will keep the pole from jumping off of the top of the tent. And just like that, your 20 by 20 is up in the air and you're ready to party. So now you see we have our completed 20 by 20 weekender pole tent up in the air. Really, this tent could be set up by a single person. I had some people here training today, but there's many times I've gone out as one person and set up a 20 by 20, 20 by 30, and a 20 by 40 tent on my own. The advantages to these weekender tents are they are very compact. All the poles are collapsible, so there's really no part that's longer than 3.5 feet. The tensioners work very well for the setup, okay? I do not recommend using ratchet straps on this tent, and I'll show you why when we set our 20 by 30 up, but this is really a rope tent. It doesn't have the same reinforcement that some of our premiums do. But if you don't want to use the tensioners, and I will say that for a end user that has this set up in their backyard, that using a tensioner might be a good idea. For the rental industry, I like to use a double half hitch. I'm gonna real quickly on this pole here, bring this in. I'm not gonna use the tensioner, all right? But what I'm gonna do is a double half hitch. I'm gonna take, Making a loop, rope under. Same thing, under. Now I'm going to pull the slack out of this. The nice thing about this knot is whether I need to tighten it or loosen it, it's just a quick pull. So I'm taking the slack out. I'm going to stand this pole back up into place. Oh, I'm going to go a little tighter. And stand her back up. That half hitch is never going to come undone until I want it. So whether you use the tensioner for a short-term setup or a double half hitch for a long-term, this tent is going to be up and secure for a long period of time.